What's up, everybody? This is yours truly, Roberto Lorenzo Ferguson. That is Robert Ferguson. And today is a good day because I will be joined by the one and only Lisa Marie, who is a nutritionist residing in the beautiful state of New York. And we're going to talk about mental health. And I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but I know it's going to go to a place where you're going to be better informed. You're going to have ideas on how you can not only improve that for yourself, but for others. I'm talking about helping people who are living with ADHD, people who are concerned with dementia and the growing challenges of Alzheimer's. We're talking about people who are really going through it. And there's a lot of people going through it. And so without further delay, let me bring on the one and only. I consider her a special person. And that is Lisa Marie. What's up, Lisa?
What's up, Robert? Hello, everyone.
You know, I have these moments, Lisa, where I'm like, okay, what is going to be the topic of discussion?
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't know.
Yeah, where this is going to go, how, or in general.
Well, I know it's always in a good place because one, we live in a world, as you brought this up a little over a week ago, where mental health is real.
Mm-hmm.
Depression is real. I mean, I'm hearing it. I was talking to my daughters the other day, and they use the term depression and talk about other kids that they know in school who are living with depression, talking suicide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a real problem, and you know, like what I've learned that I've shared with you too over the week is that it's just not being the foundation of it really isn't even being addressed.
No, it's not. It's not being addressed at all. And when I say not being addressed, I believe it's talked about,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yet no one's really sharing a solution.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like with obesity, right? They talk about it, and they've been talking about it since we were kids.
Yeah.
And every year, more people experience it, more people die from it, more concerns continue to come up about it. And again, every year it gets worse.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
Yep. There's a lot of talk, but you know, like, I mean, easy things that, I mean, they're just, you know, you have all these politicians talking about, we have a mental health crisis, we have this, you know, and I agree. Um, but when it comes down to, you know, helping people, there's, they're not hitting that mark.
No, not at all. So, I mean, you brought this up. I wanted to talk about it.
Mhm.
And as soon as you brought up depression, I quickly thought of this study that's like 17 years old. And there's quite a few studies that speak on it, but this one really got my attention. And I know it's pretty long what I sent you, so you may not have had a chance to read the whole thing yet.
I did. I read most of it. And then like as we were getting closer to the time, I was kind of skimming through it more at the end. But man, I can't believe this study is not out there.
Yeah, it's out there. And guys, so the study that we're referring to, let me frame it. It's a randomized placebo-controlled trial. And that's like the highest level. That's not getting a bunch of uh, epidemiologists bringing in people who can look at other studies and then come up with like that are survey based, and you kind of get an idea, like you get a correlation or an association, but there's no causation, right? So we're looking at like the facts, like a real solid scientific study. And so what this study did is they had people who were in prison, um, and they control their food, right? So when you're, like same as assisted living, or if you're in a hospital, when no one else can bring you any other kind of foods, you only get the foods that is given to you. So they were able to control the food that people ate and then over a long period of time, monitor these people and see if the food that they're giving them actually creates some type of change. And they were looking primarily between the link between violence, okay, poor behavior, and what we eat. And I'll tell you right now, if you don't have time to stick around, what they learned is that by taking one supplement or having an adequate amount of a certain ingredient, the violent offenses that normally happen fell or were reduced by 37%. That's significant. That's like going to school, right? And you have these 10 really bad kids, and everybody knows that they cause problems. There's not a week that goes by that they don't cause problems, right? And you give, I feel like the Matrix right now. You give, half of these kids, or let's say you give all 10 of these kids the red pill, right? Matrix, or the blue pill, whatever color we want to tie into it. But you give them the pill, and then you notice that almost half of the kids are no longer participating in poor behavior. That's significant.
It is. There was something even mentioned in that too. I think it was towards the bottom of that article, Robert, about how um, who was the one who did that study? Hibblin's, I think his name, Hiblin or something,
Yeah,
right?
Hibbling.
Hiblin. Um, and I think it was him or it was somebody. Maybe it was in I forget, where they were saying, talking about bringing that into actually the schools, and finding, like supplementing them, and you know, some food, um, uh, administration, put a kibosh to that. It was in
Oh yeah, they're
in
not
that
going to do
article.
that.
Yeah, no
Well, you
way.
can't do that. Plus, he identified also in the study, or as part of his theory, that when a person consumes a significant amount of omega 6, okay, so we're starting to talk about nutrients. So as we bring up some words, I'll bring clarity to what we mean for those of you who are new. But omega 6 is something that we're talking about, which is a fatty acid that you get through food, and you can also get it through supplementation. It is essential, meaning your body does not make it. And then we have omega 3, which you also get through food or supplementation. Again, your body doesn't make it, but you need it to live. You need omega 6 and you need omega 3. Part of the ongoing challenge is that people are getting or consuming too much omega 6, way more than the body we need. They're both good. It's just that we're getting a lot more of the omega 6 than we really need, like significantly more. And as a result, we're out of balance, and that out of balance is tied to inflammation and a whole bunch of negatives. But what I like about uh, Hilbin, or his name, I don't know if it's Russian or German, but it's Hibbeln. Maybe somebody can help us out over at Telegram on how to pronounce this. But I love how he looked at when you have too much omega 6, the omega 6, the fatty acids compete with the omega 3, which help reduce inflammation, right, in that same metabolic pathway. And when that happens, it interferes with the conversion of omega 3, which is a positive, to what they call, and this is short, DHA and EPA. And DHA is dominant in our brain. And when people die from Alzheimer's or dementia, even some autistic kids, when they've looked in their brain, they're always deficient in DHA, which is omega 3. And so if you're consuming a significant amount of omega 6 and people don't know that this is happening, then it's blocking that conversion to DHA. And think about it, most people aren't getting enough omega 3 anyway. So he saw that as like a major problem for why a lot of people were having some difficulties with their behavior. He saw the connection to the brain.
Yeah. He also mentioned, I know this went back, this goes back 17 years, but, he pointed out, in 1999, um, like soybean oil accounted like, for, it was like in 0.02%, right? That's what it accounted for. But by 2000, it accounted for 20%. Right. So I wonder what that's at now. So, like, and he was saying, he's like, people went from eating like a fraction of an ounce to a year later, 25 pounds a year of those oils.
Yeah, it's right
I mean,
around that. I actually was talking about that the other day. Um,
yeah. I mean, and so by now that, I mean, that's 2000, that's 1999 and 2000, you know, 24 years later. I mean, it's in everything.
Everything. And, like I was talking to someone the other day who has a child who's autistic. Um, and they have been using the oil that we endorse. And out of nowhere, and this could be, it just happened, the kid said mom for the first time.
Amazing.
And I'm hearing little stories like that and a whole bunch of other ones.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm intrigued. Of course, a big part of the work that we do is gaining clarity and understanding on why this particular product is working compared to other products that aren't.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
intriguing.
that's very intriguing. I mean, that was part of even the conversation that we had because I shared, I've had mixed reviews on oils because in the past, fish oils particularly, because in the past my son has reacted to them. Like he would actually get like an inflammatory response from them. Um, but there's a difference in this one. I haven't started him on it yet, but I do plan on it. I've been taking it myself. And I've noticed, a lot of a lot of great improvements so far. But like going back to that, like, with the mental health, with the brain, and it's just so important. And I can't even believe that there's a study. That study was put out by the NIH too, correct?
Exactly, which is again, it sounds like a conspiracy. We're just stating the facts, you guys. We're just stating the facts. The study like this that gets done and supports everything and more that we're talking about, and the whole world doesn't know about this.
Right. I mean, why? That's I mean, I can't I don't understand how you have that information, right? It's like when you have information that is going to help people. I mean, in that study, and even like listen, in that article, um, the guy, um, the guy who was imprisoned and sharing his story about how just changing the diet, and he said the supplements and stuff that they were giving him, because I think they were also doing like a multi they were addressing nutritional deficiencies, right?
Right.
um so um how his aggression changed, how he went out and being in and out of prison pretty much like the majority of his life with aggression, and almost to the point of murder, he said. um then he went from being calm and able to get a job and no aggression and employee of the month. Like, that's amazing.
Oh, it's mind blowing. It's
And
mind blowing. There's a video. I mean, I don't know if you're up to it, or everybody would want to watch. It's like 5 minutes long. Um, and it was recorded about 13 years ago by a very high profile physician who was very well known. Dr. Andrew Wild brought this video to my attention, and if you're open to it, I would like to play it.
Sure.
because he speaks to everything that we're talking about. And the frightening part to me, if we were to call it frightening, is that this video goes back 13 years.
Mm,
So the data, I mean, it's very clear that the data is out there. And the data that supports how everyone would benefit from what we're talking about.
mm-hmm.
Like everyone.
Right.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy to me. So it's like so I'm gonna play this video, and I haven't edited it, so hopefully there's nothing crazy on it. But this will open us up because he's talking about brain health and the relationship to omega. So for all of you who are like Brett, who I have documentation on, I have his before and after. Brett said he was depressed all the time. So he would bring up mental health all the time. And I talked to him, and then now he goes, dude, I'm not taking antidepressants anymore.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's just in a way healthier place.
Now that you say that, it's interesting because I was sharing my story with you before. I was sharing with you some of like the stuff that was going on. I was sharing, what I've done, going through this crisis a week and a half ago, and I have to say, I really didn't even put together the possibly that I've been taking the oil. Um, but I did mention to you I've handled it different. Usually I have like extreme anxiety and I, go into this space, but I was mindful of the importance of when you're going through that stress, when you're going through the stressful time, um I was making sure that I was eating. Usually I'm not eating. And what does that do? It drives my anxiety up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really putting that together in the past. Um, but so I was mindful, making sure that I was eating, I was making sure I was exercising, and but the other thing is these oils. I mean, they've made it's helped my vision, it's helped other things, and I wonder if that also, now that we're getting into this study and these stories that, it's helping my anxiety in times of crisis.
I mean, my suspicion is yes, but let's see what this doctor has to say. You ready?
Yep.
More than 20 years, I've been looking at the role of deficiencies of omega-3 fatty acids and how they increase risk of many mental health problems. The reason for this is that omega-3 fatty acids make up the brain, and they are selectively concentrated in the brain, and they make up the substance of it. You can't make new synapses, you can't make your nerve cells grow and regenerate without the fundamental food that makes the membranes. But what's really remarkable is that these omega-3 fatty acids can only come from the diet. So when people do not eat enough fish, or don't eat supplements, or don't have other dietary sources of omega-3s, their brains can become deficient, their immune systems can become deficient, and their cardiovascular systems can become deficient. So it's a fundamental nutritional deficiency that affects many organ systems, just like a deficiency of iodine or folate or any other kind of nutrient.
I just wanted to pause there just for a second, because what he's talking about, remember, this is 13 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
and everyone you would think would know this, but everyone doesn't know it.
Right. And then, I mean, the other part of it, and I don't know if he'll go into it, and I should just zip it right now, but is the omega-3 to 6 ratio, because I'm sure even, in the past 13 years, I guarantee we've probably increased by our omega-6 by, hundreds of percent.
Well, and guess who this guy is? Guess what his name is?
What is it?
This is Dr. Joseph Hiblin.
Oh, there we go.
This is the guy that we cited in the article. This is the guy.
Oh,
and
let's listen.
he was the lead clinical investigator at the National Institute of Health, or no, the National Institute of Public Health, um, and he's recognized as an authority when it comes to the link between essential fatty acids and depression. So we're hearing from the right guy right now.
Yeah, and then here goes my conspiracy brain, but like it's you have all of these. I mean, this is a great guy, right? It seems to be like working in NIH and understands this part of fatty acids, the brain, and mental health. Um, and I don't know, like, what do they silence him with this information? Like, how come I'm just hearing about this guy today? You know what I mean? Like, it blows my mind because this is a guy that we should have been learning from at NIH.
Well, one of the lead scientists out of Brazil who has been studying and done quite a few papers on oxidized oils that we're eating, these seed oils, emailed me back the other day and we're going to do a interview next week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I share that because if this guy is alive, I'm going to track him down.
Let's do it.
All right, we're
Let
on
me
it.
be on that conversation too. I would love to talk to him.
Absolutely. So I'm going to make that happen. So let's see what else he has to say. I'll let it go.
So many people have talked about omega-3 deficiencies manifesting in the skin, and you get a flaky skin. But I really think that the new definition has to be a flaky brain. And that can be manifest as I said, increased risks of depression, suicide, violence, and impaired or suboptimal neurodevelopment in children. So if we choose to go first from early development, because babies' brains are developing so rapidly in the womb, mothers selectively transport omega-3 fatty acids from their body stores over to the baby's developing brain. And if they don't eat enough seafood, or if they don't eat enough supplements, then the babies can become deficient in utero. Now, one critical question which has been asked is, are the health of children better because they're eating fish, or is there a risk of toxicological effects of methylmercury when women are eating normal distributions of seafood? And the 2004 advisory by the EPA and the FDA only calculated the toxicological effects of methylmercury, primarily basing the math on exposure to methylmercury from pilot whale in the Faroe Islands. And in that exposure where the methylmercury was 10 times as high, there weren't any clinically demonstrable effects or problems with the children, but you could detect by neuropsych testing small subtle differences in performance. So it's not really a big whopping toxicology, and it was from pilot whale that contains a lot of other contaminants, but they didn't consider fish as a whole food. So the new science, and our paper in 2007 in The Lancet, looked at the effects of fish as a whole food and as a net food with nutritional benefits and toxicological risks, and asked the question, does the 2004 advisory, which tells women to eat no more than 12 ounces a week, does the net effect protect the children, or does the net effect cause a nutritional deficiency and harm the children? And the answer was unequivocally that eating less than 12 ounces a week caused a nutritional deficiency and nearly doubled the risk that the children would have low verbal IQ at age 8. It was not due to differences in socioeconomic status, mother's IQ, training, or any other of the confounding variables. It was solely due, or nutritional variables, it was solely due to the deficiency of seafood intake in the mothers.
Wow.
So what he just said, that was a lot. And I'm saying a lot because I wanted to pause it, because you may have a question, and I know of other studies that have taken place after this that support everything that he's saying. Because there's some people who won't take like certain fish oils or an omega-3 because they heard that there's a lot of mercury in the fish, and I don't want to take that risk, so I will just do it. I'll just eat fish or whatever.
Or not even. So I that's what I would that that's why I kind of said wow, is because I remember when I was pregnant, um before I was pregnant, I was taking fish oils. When I got pregnant, I started, I don't know where I heard it, if it was from the doctor or, wherever, to stop taking fish oil because of the mercury. And I think there was also like, they were talking about lead for some, I want to say it was lead. It was some other metal. And I stopped taking them. And then when you go to the doctor, they tell you like exactly what he said, like don't eat fish, don't eat certain fish, don't eat, stay away from this fish, only have it once a week. So you're completely, becoming deficient. The wow
Yeah,
is all I can say.
and in all the studies when they looked at mercury, there's studies that were done with this. Um, I can't think of her last name, Rhonda Patrick. I first heard this study from. What they discovered was even when the fish were high in mercury, when the omegas were present, which also means the polyphenols are present in fish, then they still saw that the kids born who consume the oil with the mercury, it's like the oil canceled out the mercury. It was completely
Right.
canceled out. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Wow, I want to talk to this guy.
Yeah. And I found him. I found this guy.
Nice.
So I'm gonna let this play, and then I'm gonna show you a picture of him. He is alive and retired. He is alive and retired. So let's finish. Let's let him finish.
So the editors and the reviewers insisted that we add the language that the advisory was detrimental and that it created the harm that it's intended to protect. So it's very important to consider when people think about methylmercury, they don't realize that you're talking about picomoles of methylmercury. And you're throwing out kilograms of omega-3 fatty acids critical for brain health and development for the sake of avoiding picomoles of something with a only subtly detectable difference in test scores. Now, the FDA, other scientists reviewed their studies and looked at, instead of just methylmercury, also looked at the net effects of fish in their studies and confirmed what we found in the Lancet. Even in the Seychelles study, where the exposure was from pilot whale, they found that fish had a net beneficial effect in the Faroe Islands and in the Seychelles Islands, and in New York and in other studies. So the FDA has gone through an extensive revision and examination of the scientific background of this advisory. That first draft has been extensively revised and reviewed and is ready to make a potential impact on this advisory, which we hope will occur. Other countries and international bodies have already made that jump. The British recommend already eating no less than 2 fish meals a week for pregnant women. At least one of them should be oily.
Well, there you go. There you
Wow.
go. I did find him. I got him on LinkedIn, and I'm going to do my due diligence. He's retired. So think about it. You get a guy with this much knowledge. There's all of these studies. He's fully aware, but he's gone. He's retired. Unbelievable.
In 20 years, I've been looking at the role.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to see his face one more time.
Oh, I do know who he is now that I see him in his retirement age.
Yeah. Well, so So based on your question, Cecilia asked, that is what doctors were telling pregnant women.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that experience, that firsthand experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
stopped. I stopped all fish oils. I also had a very rough pregnancy, with morning sickness and stuff. So it was kind of hard, to eat. Anyway, I mean, my nutrition was not up during my pregnancy, because of that. But, and I was supplementing in other ways, but no, I definitely stopped fish oils and eating fish. I love to eat fish. I was told to, you can't eat that during pregnancy.
wow.
Hmm.
Well, very interesting. It's very interesting. So anybody have any questions, while we're talking about this? Because the studies are endless. It's mind blowing. And it's like I don't even have it's like I wake up every day excited about sharing this with other people. And it's kind of like this is our chance to promote something that is what do you call it? They can help people in a way that is almost like we discovered, you know, an answer to kryptonite. I mean, that's kind of how I see it. I feel like we discovered something that people don't know about, and we now want to make it available to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why would you not want to, right? I mean, that's why I'm saying, how come I didn't really know about this guy? I mean, I know I have, um, I, ha- I have heard of him. Um, but like that's what I was saying earlier too. It's like, how does the NIH, these authorities, right, in quote unquote health, they know all this information. I mean, they do put it out, right? Like, I mean, obviously we were able to find that article.
So there,
Um,
there he is, Lisa.
oh, that's not the picture that I see. Maybe I don't know who he is.
Well, I just played the video of the guy.
I know that does look like him. There's another picture I seen that doesn't
Well, I
look
mean,
like
he's up about 40, 50 pounds, but he's enjoying retirement. So, but we
Yeah.
will track this man down. Look at it. He's got salmon. He is the man. This
Yeah,
guy,
I would love to have a conversation with him on this topic.
yes. It's funny. Like, so 9 months ago, I found this where he joined this board, and it talks about how he worked for the National Institute of Health for almost 30 years, and he's recognized as one of the leading researchers on the benefits of omega-3 for both physical and mental human health. Um, his research has ranged from the positive implications of consuming seafood during pregnancy to treating and preventing psychiatric disorders. So he's a psychiatrist and a physician.
Mm,
So he's up in Lake Tahoe, and I will be tracking him down. He's still treating people struggling with major depression, people who are bipolar, um, the people who deal with aggression and ADHD, and people who are dealing with addictions. Um, this guy knows stuff that could be helping a lot of people, and nobody's talking about him.
mm.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
we do. And notice, I know you heard me. He deals with addictions,
yeah.
ADHD, bipolar, and one of his go-tos is omegas. He's gonna love the balance oil.
Mm.
He's gonna love it.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to have that, like I said, yeah, that would be really interesting to have that conversation with him. Wow.
Amen. It's gonna happen. I mean, here we are, you guys. Just think about it. We're living in this world where people are complaining about mental health, there is something that it just so happens that okay, people who have major mental health issues, same as people who have broken brittle nails, losing skin, losing hair, people with menstrual cycle pain, like all these things are 100% the outcome of being deficient in omega 3. And to get omega 3, because you'll talk to people and they don't know this, and you'll hear me say this more and more, because there's two things that make it a game changer. Number one, everybody can get a test. Everybody. Everyone can get a test, and we can find out pretty damn fast what your levels are, where you are. And then when you start taking the right oil, 120 days goes by and you find out it actually is working. My numbers have improved. That's a win. I mean, help me understand where that's not a win.
No, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than, I mean, especially so many people, right? You do things and you take things blindly, and you don't know if it's doing anything, you know? You don't know where you started and you don't know where you're ending and you don't know what it's doing.
Amen. Well, I know we're going to go to Telegram,
Hmm.
but there's another video I would love to play for you. Do you mind if we just do one more video before we go over?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So let me set this up. This video is a husband and wife that I've come in contact with. They're neuroscientists and they specialize in the prevention of Alzheimer's and dementia. They specialize. That's what they specialize in helping you prevent it. And they will tell you that less than 3% of dementia is genetic. 97% lifestyle, and there's a lot of things that we can do to prevent it, even though it's projected that Alzheimer's will be the number one leading cause of death in the next 15 years. And anyone who's hearing us talk right now, and in the next day or two, week or two, year or two, here's this conversation. All of us have lived a life, so people in their 80s, 90s, 100s, where the number one cause of death has always been heart disease. And that is about to change. It's going to be Alzheimer's. And a lot of people say, yeah, that's because the baby boomers are getting, yeah, that's true. That we have more people who are older, but those people could also die from heart disease because they're older. But Alzheimer, brain health is about to become like numero uno. And if you're out of balance with your physical health, you really are screwed. You got to get it together, because none of us want to be like, I couldn't even imagine. Like, and I've thought about this recently, Lisa. And what I can't imagine. And I've actually thought about this, and I probably will look into it. And that is my kids having to take care of me if I got Alzheimer's. I can't. I don't want to do that to them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want. I've seen it. I got family members who are living with it right now. They're there, but they're not there.
Hmm.
And I mean, I don't know about you, man, but I would. I mean,
Yeah.
I would look at going. I would look at going to another state and just take me out of here.
Yeah. My aunt had, she passed away, but she had early onset dementia. I want to say she was 63 when she passed away, from dementia. And it was hard for my cousin, it was hard for all of us. I wasn't down there. Um, but, I used to talk to her all the time, and, um, it's hard. And,
Yeah.
and it is, I think, like, between the brain and the gut, I think that those are the focus. I think that's, I mean, we already know that compared to, um even when I was a kid growing up, between, ADHD, that's brain gut, right? You have ADHD, you have ODD, you have all of these labels that they have on these children. But what is it? There's PANS, there's pandas, there's, all of these different inflammatory um reactions, creating, chaos in these kids' bodies, from behavior challenges, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, tics, all of these different, um, and a lot of times I think that, you know, w- we look even like outside, or, especially like if you go to the doctor, like my son, they told me my son was ADHD, and I never treated him with ADHD medication. I worked on his diet. I worked on, we ended up homeschooling, but, which actually helped him better, um, homeschooling. But, um, you know, e- a lot of time, because I'm also involved with a lot of these, a lot of different groups and parents that are dealing with children that are struggling with, different, it really is like a mental health crisis that they're in. And it's like, what can I try? What can I try? And I've also noticed, it's like, well, what does their diet look like? Like, and that was the same thing I was saying, like in the situation that I found myself in. It's like, what's not being addressed?
Mm-hmm.
Diet's not one. Diet, hydration, like what does that look like? And then going into this conversation, even with the omegas, well, we have to understand then, what are omega-3 and what's omega-6, and what happens to the body when those ratios are, completely out of whack, right? And what, um I don't know, it's just, I just feel that a lot of that, with a lot of these issues, like, I don't know, that should be like the step one foundation is, okay, like, going back, sorry, I know I'm going all over the place. It's like going back to the omega-3 and omega-6. It's like, if you know what omega-3 is and you know what omega-6 is, and then, you can do a test that shows you what your omega-3 to 6 ratio is. Like, to me, it's like, I think everybody should want to know that. I think anybody who's dealing with mental health issues, especially, should first be looking at what is the omega-3, omega-6 level in your body, because we are over, there's nothing that you look at, right, unless you are eating a clean whole food diet and nothing processed. um there are these seed oils in everything. Everything. Even if you go to get some, peanuts, let's say, if you look, or sunflower seeds, look at the back of them. Like, you think that you're doing something healthy for yourself, right? I'm going to have some seeds, or I'm going to have some nuts. And if you look at the back, unless it's raw, they cook that in the seed oils.
Right.
So you're not really doing a good thing then, when you understand the omega-3, omega-6 ratio and what it's doing to the body and mental health.
Yep. And key thing is that people just aren't getting enough omega-3.
Right.
That's where the problem is. So I'm gonna play this video because this video is very interesting. Okay. And I promise you guys, then we'll wrap it up. But you're gonna hear the husband and wife. I edited it down so it gets to the point that I wanted to share. Was there's a lot of studies done on the importance of omegas for young people, right? To include babies. There's a whole bunch done around older people with dementia, Alzheimer's, all that stuff. So let's say that someone lives to be in their 80s. All goes well. Is it important to look at our health in our 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s? And so the husband in this duo, he explains this whole thing around a building and how you have these pillars. And you can see a building and it may look like it's functional and everything looks great, but you don't realize, but inside of that building, these pillars are slowly falling apart. And eventually, when enough pillars over years crash, the whole thing crashes. And I love how he explained it, because a lot of people in their 30s, they're not thinking about their omega-3s. The doctor doesn't test for it. They don't look for it. Same as fasting insulin. They don't test for it. They don't look for it. And elevated insulin, that happened way before you were a type 2 diabetic, way before you had high blood pressure. But yet they're not looking at it. Same as they're not doing the test for the omega-3s. So instead of me attempting to explain it, because I think he does an amazing job, let me bring up that video and I can share with you, and you can hear it directly from him instead of me. You know what I'm saying?
Let's do it.
Okay, here it goes, everybody. Check it out.
Is one of the concepts that is not really discussed in all of the different conversations about brain health and health in general. Just because we don't see a signal during midlife about something, or if people feel fine, doesn't necessarily mean that we don't lay the foundation of disease during that period.
Cognitive capacity is the connectivity of the neurons, the infrastructure. Imagine a building, a huge building, that's held up by billions of pillars. And so if a few of them are knocked down, nobody sees any difference from outside. The building is functioning, nobody sees any difference, but the pillars are being knocked down one at a time in your 20s. I want this to be emphasized because it's very difficult for us to emphasize brain health to younger people. We're writing a third book, and a huge segment of it, actually more than a third, is around children and young adults and their brain capacity. And those pillars are foundational. We're knocking them down or building them in our 20s. So everything you eat, your exercise, everything determines those pillars. So the pillars are knocked down, and then in your 60s, now there are enough pillars knocked down where you start seeing the wavering.
So I think in that example, you mentioned a building, so pillars
Yes.
in a building, right? And so if that building falling down is sort of synonymous with cognition impairment, right?
Correct.
Being observable. Now, you can take a peek into that building. You could do an inspection and notice, okay, some of these pillars have been knocked down.
Yes.
We might want to get on the front foot here before this thing falls down.
Yes.
And maybe that's something we'll come back to, because I know a lot of people will be interested in, okay, I'm 30, I'm 40. What can I measure? Are there biomarkers or tests or scans that I can do on my brain that will tell me, hey, you're on the road to Parkinson's, or you're on the road to Alzheimer's, dementia, or Huntington's, whatever it may be?
I think it's the most critical topic that we should be speaking about, because it's in our 30s that it's not just that we're avoiding disease, but we're actually building capacity.
Yes.
That's been our focus in the last few years. It's not just Alzheimer's, but younger people. How do you get the signals to the young people to show that, oh, look, you're losing some capacity here, or you're gaining capacity? That's something, because if you don't have those markers, people are not motivated. Motivation is a complex thing when your life is driven by other factors when you're younger. But that's when it starts, especially when it comes to your brain.
What did you think of that?
That was good. You gotta send me that whole thing so I can listen to it.
Yeah. It's I hear him, because people are not thinking about the pillars. And the doctors are not testing for it. So you and I are aware that mental health, a big part of it, is that people are out of balance with omega-3. And then some people are taking omega-3 or fish oil, but they're not testing themselves. So to take a product not knowing if it works and hoping that it's working is crazy when you could actually just do a test.
Right. Well, that's, I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing with that. I mean, and that's what, you know, I love and that I learned from you too. It's like the same thing with, you know, you mentioned early the insulin resistance, right? As opposed to, you know, a glucose, you know, when you have the information, um, earlier, right? Like, I mean, insulin resistant, you can be insulin resistant for like 20 years before, you know, you see it on a blood test that the doctors are giving you, and you have 20 years to do something about it. You know, you have, you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, and you know that from the test. You you know work with one of us, you know, and you reverse that, and you can see it clearly on the test. And it's the same thing with the omegas, you know, and you see it in your I mean, not just the test, but in how you feel, and a lot of these issues that, you know, people are having. What if it's what if it's all linked to that? What if it's, you know, but I tend to believe that, my belief is that if our bodies are made up of, you know, vitamins and minerals and, you know, nutrients, and some are essential, then when we become deficient in that, like, it's a better marker to look at, you know, a deficiency and increase that deficiency to, you know, increase your health back, if that's what we're made of, than a pharmaceutical pill that is not doing anything to address that nutritional deficiency. But that's my belief.
I'm with you. This was good. So anything else? You want to jump over to Telegram for a moment and kind of open up?
Yeah, let's go.
So there's a link provided you guys where you can click on if you haven't gone to Telegram. We can bring on people. We can have an open conversation. So we want to invite you to come over. We won't stay forever. And we just continue the conversation because less things can be blocked there opposed to what happens on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, etc. And then there's some links below if you want to find out more about the oil, the test. You know, you can go directly to Lisa. So I provided her link there. You can contact me. You can schedule a free consultation with either one of us to learn more. But all of that information is there. And other than that, anything else you want to share, Lisa, before we say goodbye?
No, I just want to say thanks everyone for joining us, and I, you know, look forward to seeing you again next week.
Okay, and when they come to the Telegram, what are the key things? Like if they're new to it, they click on the link and
Yeah, so if you're new to it, you just need to click on the click on the link. You know, download the download sorry, the app, and then you'll be on that Diet Free Life Telegram page. You'll see up at the top right hand corner a join chat, and you can come press that, and you'll see us all in there, and we can have a conversation.
all right. Well, that's where we're going, everybody. I'll see you guys over there. Thank you, Lisa, as always.
Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, everybody.